Hi my lovelies, I'm Sims Babe. I hope you're doing okay and I hope you are having the greatest day. Welcome back to my channel and thank you for returning, or if you are new, welcome and thank you so much for coming in. Welcome to my extremely long-awaited new LP, Pacifico. The highlights of Pacifico are the nightlife, the daytime travels and the social scene, and this LP is set in the heart of Pacifico urban sector. So you're probably wondering, The Sims 4 doesn't have a world called Pacifico or Urban Sector, so what the hell? That's because my save file is actually called Pacifico, and I've basically constructed like a world map of where I think all of the worlds that in the save file would be, and I've gave them all new names just because I just have a lot of creativity in me and just wanted to do that. So yeah, but I'm gonna show you guys the map of Pacifico so that I can kind of get you guys acquainted with it. So this is basically the world map of Pacifico, and as you can tell, not all of the worlds are here yet because I haven't thought of names for all of them, and I don't really want all of the worlds to be included, but the main worlds are all here and all set up. So this is an overview of the world, and I'll show you guys the major points of it. So as you can see, the main point of Pacifico right here is urban sector, which is basically just San Myshuno, and please ignore the name cards of the Sims and the households that live around here. These are kind of leaks for characters in the LP that we're not introducing today, but please just ignore them, and when they show up in the series, act surprised. But anyways, yeah. So urban sector is basically the heart of Pacifico and pretty much one of the most populated cities. To the south of urban sector is Terra Nova, which is more of a, as you can see, there's still city area here, and I know that technically some of the settings that I have picked for these worlds don't really match what the worlds actually are. For example, San Sequoia isn't actually a city world, but in my save file, yes it is. So Terra Nova is basically a city area but also has a suburban neighborhood, so people who want to live in homes rather than apartments still can access the city. And yeah. To the southeast of Terra Nova is Nexoria, which replaces Windenburg, and this is basically the city for celebrities or upper class citizens who want to live private suburban lives, who don't really need to be close to the city. Obviously, as you can see, there's still the bridge here that connects them, at least that's what I'm pretending. And there's an airport down here, but yeah, this is basically for upper class citizens and celebrities who want to live more private lives. And then to the east of Nexoria is Full Moon Bay, which is basically for middle class citizens who are just looking to live a suburban life. So this is basically the suburbs, the middle class suburbs. And to the northeast of urban sector is Pacific Heights, which replaces Del Sol Valley, which is basically up here, I imagine retired celebrities would probably be living up here in the hills, and then down here there's city life down here, and then over here I imagine upcoming celebrities and people who are trying to make it in that type of world. They're probably living over here if they're not living in the city. And then to the northeast of Pacific Heights is finally Lucky Palms, which replaces Oasis Springs, and this is pretty much like a Las Vegas type of world. So I imagine there's not really many residential areas, but if there is anyone living in Lucky Palms, they're living in hotels and living such a lavish, luxurious life. So yeah. And not really any of the builds look any different because these screenshots were taken before I modified my save. So if you see, and they all look the exact same as they do when you load into the game, but that's just because these screenshots are unmodified before I changed any of the builds and actually started working on my save file. So yeah, but that's the map of Pacifico. And by the way guys, this episode is mainly going to be an introduction and backstory of our main sim, so if you're only interested in the gameplay, I completely understand, and I do hope to see you next time, but I really recommend that you stay for the introduction, as this LP is extremely story driven, and The backstory is kind of mandatory, but it's completely up to you and it's your choice. And if you do want to stay for the introduction, I promise it's very visual and you're not just going to be staring at a blank screen. I've taken so much time preparing screenshots and so many things for this series. So yeah, if you do stay for the introduction, you won't be bored. And FYI, this series is gonna have way more adult themes than my Not So Berry series, and there will be some use of base mental and a lot of alcohol, but for the funsies and messiness, of course. I also installed the Patreon version of Wicked Whims, so bye. Things are about to get like low-key crazy. This series will also be a lot more steamy than NSB as well. And lastly, there will be some slightly heavier topics, such as family trauma and Sims that do suffer from mental health issues, so just a warning, but I'll always include like any trigger warnings before each episode if there's something that could be difficult to watch. But this series is going to be a lot more adult because typically this is usually how I'd play my Sims game. My NSB is a lot more family friendly than how I usually play, and I'm just trying to bring some variation to my channel. And yeah, but now that I've given a little overview of the series, let me introduce you to our beautiful main Sim. So this is the stunning Thea Del Rey. She's 23 and her birthday is December 15th, and she's a Sagittarius. Her traits are non-committal, glamorous, perfectionist, proper and hot-headed, and her aspiration is architectural designer. Her everyday style is very much given office siren. She doesn't really have any casual clothes and mainly wears her work clothes on a day-to-day basis. Her favourite fashion brand is Bella Lovalore, and Thea very much loves making herself feel beautiful and spending a lot of time on her beauty and self-care. So on the occasion, she really does love wearing luxury and expensive clothes and making herself look really beautiful. And yeah, she cares a lot about herself, but not in a self-centered way. Outside of work, Thea doesn't really have many actual friends aside from her co-workers, and she spends a lot of nights at bars and rarely goes to clubs. She really prefers bars. She spends a lot of her free time at the gym during the late night or early hours of the morning, or doing self-care at home. And even on her off hours, she spends time working from home and sometimes delves into her one actual passion, which is art and design. When she's not focused on work or caring for herself, she's usually spending the night with a Sim and breaking their heart the next morning. I love Thea so much. So that was kind of a mini introduction to Thea, but now I'm going to move on to her family background and what her upbringing was like, and this will be the part where you really get to know her. So sit back and relax whilst I tell you guys the story about the Del Rey family, because I've put in so much work to make this part entertaining for you guys. It's literally taken me days to prepare everything that you're about to see. But nonetheless, let's actually get into the Del Reys. So if you haven't guessed by Thea's expensive designer fashion taste, she was born into an extremely wealthy family, the Del Rey family. Not only is her father Eric Del Rey one of H&B's top investors and head of the H&B creative office, but her mother is a famous model, Roxanne Del Rey. Her older sister Raquel is following in her mother's footsteps and trying to become Pacifico's next top model. And Raquel is also dating the son of a retired rock star and retired celebrity makeup artist, Jean Rose. Lastly, Thea's older brother Alec is living more like Thea and staying out of the limelight, but not too much. Unlike his family, he lives in Terra Nova and he's working on creating a high-end athletic lifestyle brand. Thea's mother, father and sister live in Pacific Heights, however they grew up in Nexora. Thea and her siblings have only ever known luxury thanks to their parents. Eric worked extremely hard in his younger years to accomplish the level of business he's at now. Due to his hard work and intelligence, by the age of just 23, he was on the verge of making 6 figures a year and was on the road to a blessing of success. As for Roxanne, she went to modelling school as soon as she turned 18, and by 20, she was signed to Iconic Modelling Agency. She started by modelling for high-end fashion brand photo shoots to walking catwalks by 23. She was noticed by a famous fashion designer, Joan Campbell, and became the biggest catwalk model for the brand. She already had reached a high level of fame and wealth by this point, but not long after turning 23, She was caught up in a cheating scandal with her at the time partner, who was also a famous model. Now, it was never confirmed if the rumours were true, but Roxanne viewed the situation as bad publicity is still publicity, and this should kind of show you the sim that Roxanne is. She waited for the rumours to die down before splitting from her boyfriend to avoid her reputation making an irreversible decline. However, within just a month of her split, she was at an exclusive bar on her night out with her friends, whilst Eric happened to be at a networking party looking to make some connections to further his business at the same venue. They hit it off and they started as just a fling, but started seeing each other more regularly. Roxanne's name was still quite hot following the breakup, following the recent cut controversy. Rumours and pictures started floating around of Roxanne and Eric, which sparked even more headlines, especially since it was so soon after her split. Within a month of meeting Eric, they made it official, which brought some fame to the both of them. This benefited them both, of course. However, within 6 months of them being together, Roxanne accidentally fell pregnant with their first son, Alec. This was a massive moment. The biggest celebrity news pages were all over this. Sims were questioning if the couple was even gonna last. Sims were questioning how fast the couple were moving. And the biggest headline was, how on earth is a pregnancy gonna affect Roxanne's blossoming career? It wasn't really a question if they were going to go through with the pregnancy, because to them it was their only option. Despite some of the negative attention, Eric and Roxanne still stayed positive and welcomed their first son Alec into Pacifico at the ages of 24. They moved in together following the pregnancy. Unfortunately, the pregnancy really worked out for their relationship, and Eric and Roxanne's relationship was doing better than ever after their son was born. After Alec's birth, Roxanne took a break from the modelling and Eric stayed working hard to maintain their lifestyle, but he always made sure to make time for their family. By the time Alec turned 1, the couple got engaged and got married swiftly after. After returning from their honeymoon, they announced that Roxanne was pregnant again. However, this time it was planned. The newlyweds decided to pack up and move to Nexoria, leaving urban sector to live a modern family life. They welcomed their first daughter, Raquel, and Roxanne was absolutely over the moon about having her first daughter. Roxanne was always going to favour her firstborn daughter, which would cause some issues down the line. After 2 years of being settled down in Nexoria, Eric and Roxanne welcomed their final daughter, Thea, into Pacifico. By the time Thea's teenage years had come around, Roxanne decided to take a step back in her career and mainly became exclusive to modelling for special events hosted by Joan Campbell. And as for Eric's career, he had become one of the top investors for HMB, the company that provides all of the eco appliances for Pacifico, and opened a creative office building in urban sector so him and his team can create new ideas for the company. As Thea was the youngest, after she moved out for university, Eric, Roxanne and Raquel made their last move to Pacific Heights so that Roxanne could enjoy her semi-retirement and Raquel could make some big moves for her modelling career. So that's pretty much Thea's family history as for how their family started, but we haven't really talked about Thea's teenage years yet, and of course, for the lucky few that are born into wealthy, famous families, you eventually also have to put in the work to keep that status. Eric wanted success and comfort for his children and never put too much pressure or expectations on them, and he was always comfortable with providing for them and only pushed them to live happy and comfortable lives. However, on the other hand, Roxanne had really high expectations for her children and wanted them to upkeep the status their parents had given them and keep their family image. Alec had shown independence and determination from a young age, just like Eric. Raquel had always been her mother's daughter and always showed that she wanted to follow in her footsteps. However, Thea was different to her brother and her sister. She never showed an interest in the fame and spotlight. However, this was not what Roxanne wanted. Roxanne viewed Thea's uninterest in the fame as ungratefulness and uninspired, which was somewhat true, at least for the uninspired part, but this put a huge strain on their already difficult relationship. Thea didn't have the best teenage years. She didn't act out or misbehave, she just started to feel very empty and hollow, and unfortunately that feeling never really left. She began to struggle with empathy and sympathy, but mainly towards her mother and sister due to how they treated her. But as for her relationship with Eric and Alec, they're mostly on good terms, and during Thea's teenage years, she also started smoking to cope with whatever was going on between her, Raquel and Roxanne. Thea and Raquel really never got along and their relationship only worsened over time. Her sister's ego was already extremely inflated because she was her mother's favourite and it was more than obvious to everyone in the family. Raquel was Roxanne's first daughter and better yet, she wanted to be just like her. Roxanne also favoured Raquel since she was the next generation Roxanne and she was also the only child that carried over Roxanne's genes, unlike her brother and sister taken after their father. Raquel was the perfect daughter in Roxanne's eyes, and because of Roxanne's preference for Raquel, she placed her on a pedestal and Raquel could never do any wrong in her eyes. Even when Raquel was in the wrong, she would always villainize everyone else, and this was horrible for Thea since Thea and Raquel argued and fought a lot. This also heavily impacted an incident that would occur whilst Thea was back from university for the holidays. At the time, Raquel was dating the son of a famous fashion designer, and it looks like Raquel might just have a thing for nepo babies just like herself. Roxanne and Eric were hosting a luxurious Christmas party, and of course Raquel's boyfriend was obviously going to be there. Whilst Thea had stepped away from the party, Raquel's ex-boyfriend decided to follow her, and there was just always something about the way he would look at her sometimes. When they talked, there would just be this one-sided tension sometimes. Raquel's boyfriend took the opportunity to make a move on Thea, however, he didn't know that Raquel had come looking for him. Raquel chose to see Thea as the one who was seducing her boyfriend despite the situation being the complete opposite and Thea declining his advancements. Of course, Roxanne took Raquel's side and didn't even think to defend Thea, but thankfully Eric and Alec knew that Thea would never do that and that it wasn't her fault for whatever Raquel's boyfriend wanted to do with Thea. This completely ruined Thea and Raquel's relationship for a time, and for the first time, Raquel actually felt intimidated and insecure. She ended things with her boyfriend and took a break from dating until she met her current boyfriend, Jean. Deep down, Raquel knew that Thea was innocent because Raquel knew Thea's history with boys as a teenager, and if Thea truly wanted Raquel's ex-boyfriend, she would have had him. From then on, Raquel was always cautious about Jean around Thea since she was scared of history repeating itself, but Jean truly loves Raquel and tries to keep his friendship and contact with Thea limited out of respect for Raquel. Thea grew up very independently, a lot like Alec, but she was still very different to her brother and sister. As a child, Thea was quiet and never really bothersome, which was never a problem, but because of that, Roxanne just found her less interesting than her siblings. Thea just didn't share any interest with Roxanne, and that caused a strain on their relationship from childhood, which should have never been a reason to affect their relationship. In Thea's teenage years, she was never really interested in relationships, to be specific. She didn't really feel the emotional capacity to care for boys deeply or at all, but she definitely was interested in the physical things that she could get from boys. And Thea's dislike towards commitment came from the lack of commitment and care that Roxanne gave to her after seeing how different they were. Having a lifestyle without commitment was just easier and more convenient for Thea, and to this day, Thea still never had a serious relationship, but there was a lot of boys that she messed around with in high school and during adulthood, and many boys that she rejected. Thea was never insecure and she always knew her worth and how beautiful she was, so when Roxanne and Raquel were just condescending or shut her out, she didn't really pay any mind to it and it never really hurt her. She just thought of it as petty and extremely annoying. As for her school life, both of Thea's siblings performed outstandingly and it was expected of her too. And of course, Thea also performed outstandingly. However, Roxanne put an unnecessary amount of pressure on Thea compared to her brother and sister. And that was because truly deep down, Roxanne didn't even know what Thea wanted to do with her life. Thea was also constantly being compared to Alec and Raquel, and being compared to Alec never really fazed her because they had a good relationship and Thea didn't blame Alec for Roxanne's personality, but Raquel's ego just did not need boosting anymore, and that's all Roxanne's comparisons did for her. But during high school, Thea started to smoke to cope with Roxanne's annoyance, and Thea's lack of empathy and emotion only started to get worse as Roxanne and Raquel became more jarring. Despite the issues between Roxanne and Thea, Thea still had it in her heart to love Eric. He never put too much pressure on her, and she understood that he only wanted her to succeed for her own sake and not for his family's sake, as he did for his other children. Eric did what he could to try and regulate Roxanne and call her out whenever she went too far, and Roxanne always listened when Eric was the one to call her out. Thea always felt loved by her father and they never had any issues. Eric was the only person that Thea felt she could show her interest to and not be put down or told she could never succeed. Eric always wanted Thea to be herself and do whatever she wants to, and he'll do whatever he can to support her career and her in general. Since Thea started working at the H&B Creative office, they've been able to spend a lot more time together and they've bonded a lot. And Thea never really had any issues with Alec either. Unfortunately, because of their age difference, it was hard for them to be close, as Alec went off to uni when Thea started high school, and Alec didn't move back to Nexoria after university because he absolutely hated the way that Roxanne treated Thea and favoured Raquel. He didn't want to focus on fame either, so he moved to Terra Nova to pursue his lifestyle brand and hopefully open his own store. The expectations and pressure that Roxanne put on Thea caused Thea to become an extreme perfectionist, and eventually that only turned into OCD. Thea lost any element of personality that she had left in her, as Roxanne was always in her ear telling her that the interest that she had would never give her the success that her family had, but she always remained interested in art. Thea never wanted to spend her life working for her father, and since she never really opened up about the career that she wanted, Eric and Roxanne thought it would just be best if Thea just worked for her father in the H&B Creative office, since they both knew that Thea was interested in art and design. After high school, she studied economics and art and graphic design in university and graduated with honours. She moved to urban sector and currently lives in a luxury apartment that Eric pays for to be closer to the H&B Creative office, and Thea also wanted to move to urban sector to try and fill her emptiness with nightlife and no strings attached to romances. Her struggles with empathy and emotions didn't really disappear, and she still felt like a shell of a person. Thea's smoking habits never stopped, and she also started to drink a lot whenever she was struggling. But she also just really liked drinking in general. Her drinking habits weren't necessarily unhealthy or addictive, it was just a coping mechanism or a vice. She's currently seeing an architect/interior designer, Marcus Hill. Thea was always a massive fan of his work. Thea and Marcus met in an exclusive event that took place in an art exhibition that Eric was able to get Thea into, where Marcus was the one to notice Thea first. Despite Thea's uninteresting commitment, they managed to come to an exclusive friends with benefits agreement, and this came with a lot of bonuses for Thea. She got to be his +1 to celebrity events, and they got to go on expensive dates, and Marcus also likes to shower her with expensive and luxury gifts. As for Thea's career right now, she doesn't herself leave in the H&B Creative office anytime soon or whatsoever. It's not her ideal career, but Thea doesn't believe her family will support her if she pursues a career that she wants to, which is becoming an architect. And honestly guys, that brings us to now. So I'm so excited for this LP to come to you guys. Oh, I'm so excited. Guys, this LP has literally been in the works since September. Back in August when I started my channel, I was thinking about posting this. I was like, should I make this a thing? September, I started working on it, and it's now November. So I've been working hard on this LP for so long, and I'm so excited to bring it to you guys. I'm sorry if this introduction wasn't entertaining enough. Honestly, this introduction has been such a struggle to make. I'm so excited to finally bring it to you guys. To whoever's watching and made it this far, thank you so much, because the effort I have put into this introduction has killed me. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope to see you in the first official episode of Pacifico. And yeah, I'm Sims Babe. I hope you're having a good day. Bye guys.